Welcome to another exciting video here today at Blue Glow Electronics. Today we're in Cary, North Carolina.
Welcome, Mark. Nice to see you.
Yeah,
Welcome to the Toy Factory.
Famous Dennis Had here. He's quite well known in the industry, and thought we'd take the time today to do an interview with him. Dennis, I got a bunch of questions here for you. We're gonna have fun with them.
Do I get paid for this?
We'll talk about that later. I'll bring you some too.
What is that? The film festival? Is this going to be there?
Yeah, exactly.
Is that what we're doing?
I'll bring you some vacuum tubes.
Okay. That's good. That's good.
All right. So first question on my list here was, you're well known in the audio industry. You founded Cary Audio. Obviously a smart businessman. Excellent, artist, designer. Can you tell me kind of what inspired you to get into the audio field to begin with?
Basically, the start goes back many, many years ago. My father would have his string quartet practice in our home on Friday evenings. And then on Saturday they would play on WTAM radio in Cleveland. And one of the fellows at times would bring in a recorder with a metal record, a West Trax recorder. And they would set that up and do recordings, and I would take that that metal recording, put it on my RCA Victor record player, and I mean it was just extraordinary. I mean I would listen to their practice session, and then I took apart the record player to see why I liked this so much. And in fact, at that point, my parents were out of reach, and I had a babysitter. And so I took the record player. It was kind of a family record player.
Right.
And the speaker, I was intrigued with the loudspeaker. So the 4 screws. My grandmother gave me a toolkit, and so I took the speaker. I had the whole record player apart, and I took the speaker, and the stuff fell out. I thought, oh my gosh. I thought I better put this back together, so I'm picking up this stuff, these balls, and what it was is dust balls. I thought they were part of the speaker. It was all this stuff. Put it back together, and that got me going.
Wow.
And that started me on the path to audio. Yep. And then shortly after 7 years old, I built a crystal set.
Yeah.
And started and strung a wire out the window. Oh man! So I had audio and radio.
So you're a W4 USR?
USR, United States Radio. I don't know any better.
So second question on our list for you today, Dennis. Tell me about some engineering principles that you learned along the way that you would just never consider compromising on.
Well, first of all, in putting the units together, it's proper to hold the cold end of the soldering iron.
Yes.
And once you learn that, and not to use a wire for solder, but actually solder, then you can go about with your design process. And actually, my formal education is in the form of riding my bicycle to the Lyndhurst Library outside of Cleveland, where I grew up, and reading every textbook. Right. And that was starting at about age 10. And at age 12 is when I entered a class,
right.
Formal class at the YMCA in Lyndhurst, Ohio, for Saturdays.
Yep. And
because I had formal education during the week, of course, at 12 years old. Entered the class for ham radio.
Yep.
And I got to tell you, back then, I mean, I was drawing schematics and building products and experimenting, and that's how I got my feet wet of actually building something that gosh, I could talk to around the world.
Right, right.
And so then it started in my formal education was in the business side of it at my community college, but everything's self-taught from age 10 years old. And at 12, I entered the science fair, the 7th grade science fair. And this is probably what really locked me in, is I built a 6V6 single-ended audio amplifier.
Wow.
And it was single-ended from the standpoint that my paper route only accounted for about a half of an amplifier.
Right.
So, but I did the single-ended amplifier, 6V6, and then one of the neighbors had donated to me a Emerson radio, table radio.
Yeah.
And I took that apart, and the speaker inside was great. It was about 5.5 inch.
Right.
It sounded wonderful. So I asked the shop teacher at the junior high if I could use in the afternoons after school, build a loudspeaker cabinet. Well, he saw this speaker and he said, sure.
Right.
But my neighbor next door, and he was the Fisher rep and Sony rep. But anyways, he had these Patricia big EV speakers, you know. So I said, it's got to be big. The cabinet had this little speaker. By the time I was done, and he taught me how to glue boards together, the loudspeaker just barely fit in my mother's 1957 Buick.
Oh, wow.
So we got it in there, and then I had a BSR record player.
Yep.
I took that apart and built a plinth for it, and it was an automatic.
Yep.
But my neighbor, he once again, he had a Reco cut.
Yep.
And the Reco cut didn't have a changer mechanism, so I took with a hacksaw, I cut off the shaft. So it was, and with a little machine screw, I had my lift
Yep.
on it, and so that's when I entered the science fair.
Wow.
Put it all packaged together.
Yep. Yep.
And got best sound of the show. They got a blue ribbon, so
Yeah.
so that got me really, really hooked. And it's just, I guess now I just don't know any better. But,
So do you still have the amp, or did you sell them different parts?
do you know that amp morphed itself so many different, and it went into a 300B.
Yeah.
I remember going downtown Cleveland with some of my buddies. We were all electronic crazed at that time. And we would get on a bus and go downtown Cleveland, and I had heard read articles about a 300B, Western Electric. And I called one of the distributors. They had 300Bs. So I went down there, and I'm used to buying 6 L6s or 6 V6s. And then I noticed, you know, I had to get a 4-pin socket, but a good one. I had one old one from a Philco radio, and when the fella came, and the countermen generally would run when they'd see me come with my list.
Right.
Oh yeah, it's just. But anyways, I asked for the 300B, and he brought the tube out. And I saw this triode; it was beautiful,
Yeah.
and the way it was packed, you know. And so I said, okay, I'll take that. So he's adding everything up, and this is my paper route money, and the bill came to like $47. I was just shocked. They said, well, the 300V tube is $29. I said, you gotta be kidding. So it was, you know, horribly priced for the enthusiasts back then.
Right.
But I went ahead and bought it, and built my first 300B amplifier.
Right.
And at this point, I was 13 years old, and I had progressed along.
Yep.
And also same with my ham radio. I built my first 5-watt transmitter.
Right.
And within a couple of weeks, I was up to 15 watt. And a few weeks after that, it was 25 watts, you know. And I got a little bit higher power, and then, well, I ran into difficulties with TV problems. I was getting into the neighbors' TVs.
Yeah.
So I reduced the power once again. Basically, it's self-taught.
Wow.
And from a really, I mean, I've been 59 years of building and soldering and building stuff. I never lost the enthusiasm. I mean, I just love it.
That's awesome.
So
was that 300B a Western Electric?
Western Electric.
It's probably not
300B.
worth $29 today.
It's worth about $2,500. I mean, it's just
If you're lucky.
amazing, yeah. But the neat thing about it, and you've met one of my buddies, W4VOC Doug.
Yep.
You met Doug, and he was in a 6V6 push-pull, then 6 L6s, high power.
Right.
But my little 6V6 thing, it always sounded better,
Oh, yeah.
you know? I mean, it just, but he would always grumble about that. You know, you gotta have high power.
Oh.
So.
Gotcha. So tell me, what advice would you give to somebody today trying to get into the electronics hobby?
Wow, that's the electronic hobby, you know, from a standpoint of getting the business, is probably one of the best areas to start out, because you can start in electronics with a small company.
Right.
And I mean, whether in your basement, garage, your den, or what have you, and then you just put the blinders on. I mean, if you have an idea, start it and put the blinders on. Marketing has never been so worldwide as it is now with eBay.
Yep.
And the Amazon and what have you, especially eBay.
Yeah.
It's just for a very modest expense, instead of running huge ads, you hit eBay and away you go.
Right.
So it's truly exciting, much easier than it was when, I first started.
Yeah.
Well, the big one was Dentron radio.
Right.
And I mean, the advertising expenses and to get your message out always took months
Yeah.
for the next publication. So I would advise anybody that has a great idea to just pursue it. And I've gone on a principle: build one up, and if you can sell 3 to somebody that you don't know, 3 sales, then you go ahead with it. Then you've got a winner.
Gotcha.
If you can't sell more, if you can't even sell the first one, maybe better rethink it. But gosh, I remember back in 1972, I had a great idea for a communication transceiver, an Atlas radio type.
Right.
Small, compact, and I thought, what a great idea. And I just kept it in my mind, didn't pursue it, only to see it as a reality by Herb Johnson.
Right.
Who came out with Atlas radio.
Yeah.
And it was just what he stole it from my mind.
Right.
So I had another idea with Dentron radio in 1974.
Yep.
And then I went for it. I had an idea and went for it. And also, it's good that if you can go to a mentor that along the way has helped you out or you respect in the business field. And I was very fortunate that as I was going to school part-time, working at Olson Electronics in Cleveland, Ohio, down on Euclid Avenue. And Olson Electronics, I had the Fisher Hi-Fi gear, I had the Hallicrafter ham radio gear.
Right.
But the real exposure is that Phil Olson, one of the owners of the chain, took me under his wing.
Gotcha.
And that's where he changed my diapers in the business.
Right.
And when I was going to start the first major company back in '74, took my whole family, we got on a plane, went out to Palm Springs, because at this time he had sold the Teledyne.
Right.
He was in his life of luxury. And I told him about my idea. And we were in his swimming pool all together, and he said, "You've got to go for it." He says, "Just get an old building, paint the windows so nobody knows what you're doing, and go for it." And he said, "It sounds,
Yep.
and to have somebody with that you respect to give you the encouragement.
Yep.
If he had said, I have hesitations, you got to take that into consideration as well. But he was a winner. I mean, he built that chain, he and his brothers. It was just extraordinary. So I was very fortunate. And as I say, he changed my diapers in the business world.
Yep.
And just fond memories always.
I go to a lot of ham fest. I run into Dennis at a lot of the ham fest. I can't think of a ham fest I've been to in the last 30 years that I did not see a Dentron amplifier.
There you go.
Sitting on some table somewhere. So, your legacy kind of lives on. Talk to me a little bit about the simplicity of the designs you've got going here versus, most of what you see out there today is a lot more complex. A lot of solid state being integrated in with the tube gear, a lot of very complex circuitry, but you seem to have kind of stuck with
I've done complex with audio amps.
Yep.
And in fact, with the craze of the surround sound video, I did from monoblocks to 7-channel amplifiers.
Right.
And I remember working on my really serious first solid state amp. And I took it around. In fact, I went up to Audio Connection in New Jersey with this amp. And I had been working to make it sound like a tube amp. And I took it out and they said, "It's horrible." I said, "Well, I'm trying to make it like a tube amp." He said, "It's horrible." And so I came back and I just went by the test equipment and not by my ear. And
specs are great.
Good engineering practices all along, and made it safe in the power the power transfer was huge. And then made the return trip about a month later, and it was a winner.
Yeah.
And with that, then came the Cary NB500 monoblocks. And so I did solid state. I did it with some complex circuits, but never sounded not even close to a vacuum tube amplifier. And then even going further, this is my opinion, of course, is that nothing is close to a single-ended.
Yep.
I remember back in 1995, and Cary Audio, we were really making some ripples in the industry, high-end audio.
Yep.
Serious. And I remember Richard Vandersteen coming to me one evening after we'd done a joint seminar. He said, I gotta tell you, he says, you're ruining high end. I said, what are you talking about? He says, you're ruining it. He says, you got these little fleet-powered amplifiers that sound so good, nothing comes close to it, but they won't drive my speakers.
That's right.
So, that is just the sonic merits
Yeah.
of the single-ended amps, and then with what's really fun here with what my Inspire, which I was inspired by everything I've been telling you.
Yeah.
From my neighbor who was the Sony Fisher rep, to the Norelco radio given to me, and the Olsen Leggett. So I've been inspired all along the way with some pretty strong inspirations from Heath kids, because I own Grief kids, Ico, you know, so a lot of the kids that I put together. And but every time the single-ended amp, just sonically, even from when I was a kid with the first 6v6, my father's string quartet sounded closer to what I heard on Friday night with my single-ended 6v6 than it did with Doug's push-pull 6L6, you know, blasting away. Oh,
I'm going to ask him about that next time I see
yeah, you
him.
need to. He can't hear.
Interesting.
So that's just some.
So talk to me a little bit about, somebody wants one of your single-ended amps, right? But they've got, a set of speakers that maybe aren't all that efficient. Talk to me about,
Generally, I find that any loudspeaker that's about 87 dB or better can be driven with the single-ended amplifiers. And the neat thing I found, speaking of Vandersteen, years ago I hooked one of my single-ended 300B amps that was at 9 watts per channel. And I hooked that to a 2C and put a peak reading voltmeter on it.
Right.
And started to drive it. And then pushing it until all of a sudden, sonically, the human ear, it said, it's starting to break up.
Yeah.
It was a 9 watt amp. The peak was close to 20 watts. But it started to break up.
Gotcha.
So I take a look at some of the amp, like this guy right here, it'll run linear up to 17 watts. And you put a square wave and see, you drive it until it won't.
Yep.
You can't drive it any further.
Right.
And that level is what these guys will do in the real world into a loudspeaker with music.
Gotcha.
And it's really, so you're up to 15 watts to 17 watts. Right here, depending on the rectifier, 10 to 12 watts. This is a 40 model 45 tube. That's 2 watts.
Yeah.
I think you heard that on these
I
lots.
did.
Yeah.
I did. I actually bought a pair of these speakers recently from Dennis. Tell me a little bit about those. You made how many sets of them?
Oh, I've made 5 pair.
5 pair.
5 pair. And of course featuring the Magnavox 1965 tweeter, paper tweeter.
Yeah.
That is really, it's really quite fun. These drivers, a 10-inch and a 15-inch. This is acoustic suspension on the low end, so it's real tight. And then on the back, most expensive driver is the Audex on the back, firing back. So it's a 4-way system.
Yep.
And it's not practical to ship around the country.
Right, exactly.
And for me, it's not practical to try and work with the woodworkers.
Yeah.
I don't understand them. It must be the sawdust or something. It's very difficult. But I had one fellow that built. That's right. Years ago, I had a bass reflex with a JBL driver, full range driver, and I had a fellow build me a set of cabinets, and he was a friend. I'll never, ever, don't you ever ask me to build another one of these. It was so complex, and all these, two ports inside and so on. But anyways, great fun.
Interesting. So tell me, what's the one favorite item you've ever built?
The favorite item? The favorite item in audio is probably the Cary CAD 805.
Okay.
And that appeared on 74 front covers in 74 different countries.
Wow.
All over the world. And so the CAD 805, that was the one on Stereophile. The first time Stereophile ever put any product on the front cover.
Yeah.
And it was the Cary 805 and the Dan DiAgostino designed Krell. solid state.
This has been on my want list for a long time, by the way.
With the question, which is right? You know. So, but the 805, audio.
So tell me the Cary 805 versus what you're building today.
Well, that's just what I'm building today is fun and exciting and dynamic,
Yep.
and it's something that I'm known for single-ended amps, but what I'm building today is really different. These are the beam power tubes,
Right.
and I'm running them as the tube designers probably truly designed them. And the screen grid is regulated voltage
Right.
with a lower value of voltage than the plate.
Yep.
And the amplifiers are dynamic. I call them the new age of single-ended.
Yeah.
And I call some of the 300B and triodes, the old man's amp.
Right.
And I'm still in my youth.
Ah. Yeah, I think the KT88s are the
Oh,
perfect single-ended tubes.
Just-
They're cheap as dirt.
The
rugged.
And your little amp I point to over there, when you put the KT88s, it was really,
Oh, yeah.
so you go to two extremes. The KT88s are 6V6s.
Yep.
And the 6V6 has a special place for me, but also has that worldwide classic vacuum tube sound. And running them in a proper fashion as a true penthode.
Right.
Single-ended, they're dynamic. It's all, that's the dynamic, and with a regulated voltage on the screen.
Right.
And these amplifiers, this is my most popular one right here, the fire bottle with the KT88s.
Yep.
If you were to monitor the plate current, no matter how hard you drive it, even in the full clipping,
Right.
it still hangs there just solid as a
Solid as a
rock.
rock.
Because the screen grid, it's got a low impedance B plus power supply running.
Yep.
And it shows up sonically. You can hear it immediately.
Yeah.
So it's actually brand new in a way. 'Cause I
Right.
didn't build any of these at Cary this
Right.
type.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course, I did one time, and I set a prototype with KT88s. I remember setting them up to Ken Gould at Audio Nexus in Summit, New Jersey. And he said, "You can't dare come out with this." I said, "Why?" I said, "I'm loving this." He said, "It'll kill the rest of the line." Because I was $2,000 for a pair or 25
Yeah.
He said, "It'll kill the rest of the line." I said, "Oh, okay." I was just learning the business, so to speak, of audio.
Yeah.
But so that was the only time I did it, and so I came back with the Inspire gear is just dynamics,
Yeah.
explosive in their power range.
Right. So a lot of my video watchers know that I collect tubes, right?
Right.
I've been hoarding tubes for 30 plus years now.
Thermonic devices.
Exactly, but I, like you, seem to be using new tubes in anything I work on, and these other things are just collectors. Talk to me about new tubes versus old tubes.
Well, on an ongoing commercial basis, aside from the 45s that are available new, but the old ones seem to sound better. But that's an example of where the old one sounds better most of the time. On the other tubes, the brand new KT88s, like the Generalites, they're fabulous.
Yep.
The new tubes, these KT150s, they're fabulous sound.
Yeah.
To go with new old stock, it's fun, and to swap in some of them, it's a neat sound. But all of a sudden, you
Right.
whoa, wait, what is that, And, but if you get true new old stock,
Yeah.
but a lot of times the true new old stock is so expensive,
Yeah.
it's really.
I think they're making really good.
Now, go back to when the Chinese were first making KT88s, oh my gosh, they're like a Roman candle going out.
Right.
You wouldn't dare leave the room. But now they're just, they're fabulous, yeah.
I think even GZ34s, good quality stuff out there today. The 5U4s and whatnot. I'm finding good stuff myself. That whereas 10 years ago I would have sought out the old stuff.
Right.
So.
I have some, all the records you see are from audiophile buddies that come in.
Yeah.
They bring a
Dennis has a
record.
rule. If you bring a record in the office, it doesn't leave.
It's like a clubhouse here half the time, and but the resurgence in vinyl,
Yeah.
it's absolutely amazing, And so the fellows are bringing that in and building. A lot of the fellows that are in the area, actually I'd say the area within the tri-state area.
Right.
Coming and at times some of the fellows have keys and they'll come back and see them on a drill press. Had a fellow in here a month ago, he's a physician, and he was building a phono stage. He was crazed. So he built the phono stage and it sounded so good. I thought, oh my gosh, I'm gonna try that out in this one here, prototype.
Yeah, good deal.
So,
interesting. So how many amplifiers have you built this year?
gosh,
Oh, you don't want the RS to know?
I really haven't counted them. I mean, in all sincerity, fellas say, do I get a manual? No. But,
instructions.
instructions. Do you have a business card? No. Is there a warranty? I want you to be happy with it, you know. And so how many I build? In the early days, it was maybe one a week.
Yep.
Because I was doing all the machining
Right.
here and then sent it out for powder coating. No, first though, I painted them behind the shop here.
Wow, wow.
Yeah, it had to be a clear day without too much pollen falling, and painted them out here in the back shop.
Wow.
And various colors, whatever, you know. So average then was maybe one or two a week, and then as it caught on, I mean, I thought this is great fun.
Yeah.
And then it caught on to the point where, my goodness, I was machining all the way up until the end of last year just about, and then sending them out for powder coating. Now they're all done by a high-tech manufacturer. It's a one-step process. Everything's done with a laser or computer NC controlled punching system.
Right.
And the chassis go through. The place is huge. The chassis go through a bath where they're anodized, cleaned.
Yep.
Then they go for powder coating. And fortunately, the owner is and the vice president. They're big NC State. They're graduates of NC State, and gosh, Dawn and I have been Wolfpack NC State members for over 20 years. So, anyways, this is a company that, do you remember the red box where you go get your DVD?
Videos?
Yeah, the video. Well, that's who's building these.
Yeah, I gotcha.
They built 25,000 of them.
These are mini red boxes.
So 25,000. Now I'm up to 50 chassis at a time.
Oh, wow.
That they're building. I started out with 12, 25, and now 50.
Wow.
And my part-time guy, associate neat fella, who was manufacturing supervisor and manager for Cary Audio back in the early days.
Yeah.
And then he retired, his wife's an accountant, and he became Mr. Mom, and I finally said, Tony, you gotta get, I need help, man.
So it sounds like you're building more than one a week now.
So, yes, yeah, last week 5 units went out. Yeah, so I'm down now to, I can do an amp from start to finish in about 5 hours, 5.5 hours.
But it's still all hand done.
Oh, gosh, yes. Oh, yeah, point to point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All point to point wiring inside.
Yes.
All hand soldered.
Hand soldered, and in fact, it's probably one of the best bargains in hi-fi.
I think so too.
So, I mean, when you see the inside, it's amazing.
Yeah. I've got a lot of audio gear, and I've tried a lot of different things over the years, and that amp will hold up with any of it.
Yeah, it'll play forever.
Exactly. Exactly. It's pretty solid. Pretty solid. Tell me about. I call it kind of auto foolery, but there's a lot of snake oil and magic out there for sale in the audio world.
You think?
Yeah. Tell me about your thoughts on
I don't want to offend anybody. Everybody deserves a good chance at something. But there is a lot of bullcrap out there. I mean, yeah. There's some really neat accessories that are terrific, and others are just, I mean, I probably shouldn't even mention, but I've got a list in my mind that if we were on video, I'll tell you exactly the ones I think that are.
Yeah, I see a lot of $80 a foot speaker cable and just devices to support your power leads coming up your amplifier and things.
I had a customer call me and he said, "What's your thoughts on improving the sound of my Inspire amp by using gold fuses?" And I said, "What?" I said, "You mean the AC fuse?" He said, "Yeah, it will improve the sound if I put a gold fuse on." I said, yeah, back years ago, there was a fella, you put a clock in the wall, you plug in a clock and improve the sound.
Yeah.
That's so controversial, I probably should stay away from that. I mean, I'm really having fun with my Radio Shack wires.
So tell me about something you designed that just didn't work out the way you had this thing in your head and it just didn't work out.
Well, in the RF field, I had a transceiver with 2,700 parts in it.
Holy cow.
And we geared up to make 100 of them. And as they started to come off the line, I discovered everyone was different.
Oh.
And I had to re-engineer everyone to get it work right. It was a disaster, financial and product-wise.
Wow.
And the ones that got out, which were about 22 pieces, they worked great, but I spent, on a couple of them, I spent 3 or 4 days just to get them so they worked properly.
Wow.
That was a disaster.
Gotcha.
So I don't design RF transceivers anymore. When it worked, they worked great.
Yeah.
So in the RF field, in the audio field, gosh, I designed the gals before when I sold my interest in Cary, they added up all the different products. It was 197. 197 different models, the Cary models. And basically, I loved every one of them. And they performed. I'm trying to think if there wasn't a single product. Now, when I was dabbling in loudspeakers, that's a whole different story. Oh, there was some awful sound. It was. And then there were some great ones.
Yeah.
That I did. And like the Soliloquy 5.3, gosh, that it was up for product of the year, but some of my speakers were not so good.
So what's left on your bucket list audio-wise? Something you always wanted to do, just haven't got to yet?
Well, years ago, many years ago, going back, oh my gosh, 30-some years, I had a high-powered single-ended amp featuring an RF transmitting tube, 8877.
Yeah. It's 1,500 watts.
1,500 watts of dissipation. I had it in my library, the amplifier. It was in a 6-foot rack.
Right.
I had it in the library, a Dayton blower down at the bottom to cool a pair of 8877, one for each channel, single-ended.
Wow.
I was running a kilowatt input and running 200 watts output. And that was an amazing amplifier. And back then in the 70s, a fellow had to have it. And I remember selling to him for $8,000.
Wow.
And I mean, that was chump change today for that type of amp. I have some 812s in the back.
Yep.
811s.
Yep.
I'm like looking at 572s, and then possibly fool around maybe. If I get really crazy, I have the transformer, the audio output transformer for it at 8877.
That's what I was going to say. The audio output transformer would be impossible to find today.
Huge. Oh no, I have a custom one. Oh yeah,
Wow.
You can't find it. But I have in the back, I have a couple of output transformers for 572Bs.
Wow.
That I had wound in 812. So I think going on, I'll probably have some crazy RF transmitting tubes, but single-ended.
Yeah.
And just let them run. I mean, the CAT 805, the 805 was, that name comes from the 805 transmitting tube with the plate cap.
I was going to say.
Yeah, but of course, back then, from a commercial standpoint, I designed it, it sounds fabulous, and people were saying, what if somebody pulls that cap off? That's only 900 volts. But, so, I went with the 211.
Yeah.
And that was a transmitting tryout.
Yeah.
And so I'll do something along the lines of high power.
That's awesome.
So I mean, I just can't. But it's so much fun. These amps are And here's another factor that's really important. I think that from the standpoint of, for instance, this guy's 2, 3, I'm behind 5 right now.
Right.
A week. And half of those fellas have never had a tube amp.
Oh, wow.
And half those fellas are probably 30 years old or younger.
That's awesome.
Yeah, this is their first tube amp and they're young. Yeah, it's
Wow.
amazing. They're driving with their iPhones, and then they move up, they get a DAC, you know, and then they're on plugging their headphones, and from the headphone output of their little DACs that run into the amp, and they're discovering what real audio can
sounds
be.
like, yeah.
So it's very refreshing.
Yeah.
The number of young folks that are starting out, and that's what I'm appealing to.
Yeah.
And then the old guys like me, no, I'm still my youth, but have their slow old 300V 2A3 amps, you know,
Yeah.
that are almost putting them to sleep. They get one of these jobby-doos and away we go, and then the word spreads.
That's exciting to hear that the younger community
Oh
out there
yeah,
is-
and at first time for vacuum tubes, that
Right.
you know, they didn't grow up with them,
Right.
and now they're discovering it.
Yeah.
And then there's also discovering turntables.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I had one fella come in that had a solid state, what was it, I don't know, Onkyo or somebody, had solid state, and he moved into Raleigh,
Yeah.
and he ventured into vacuum tubes,
Yeah.
into a 300B amp. And he came over here just for grins with some of his buddies. He couldn't believe. Anyways, some of his tubes are over there. He hasn't even picked them back up, and he bought one of these amps.
Wow.
And he's just jamming with it.
Wow.
So
That's
yeah.
exciting. Exciting.
This is my test setup here, and I'm using my glove because this was running up in front. The tubes are a little toasty, but I thought it might be.
Dennis pulled his latest product off the bench, and
Yes, this one was completed the day before yesterday. Basically, did the startup on 12. What's today's date? About the 18th. So this started the raw chassis getting with the stuff parts about a week ago.
wow,
I do them in stages, and there's a number of them that Tony has. And he's doing some in his home right now, the basic stuffing of the chassis. And I thought I might get a kick out of seeing what the inside of a fire bottle looks like. So I don't use Phillips.
I noticed.
Usually you end up chopping those up. Let's see here. Oh, I still have one there. All the hardware inside is using what's called kep nuts. Every bolt has a washer, built-in lock washer.
Right.
So you're not going to have it coming apart. And if you look here, I epoxy this capacitor so it doesn't move is epoxy. The switch so that it doesn't loosen up. It's epoxy. The lamp. All along here, the connectors,
Yep.
you can twist but they're all epoxy.
Epoxy. Gotcha. Good stuff in there. Indeed.
But there's hand wired.
Nice.
This is part of the bias system right here, left and right channel, and this is part of the regulated power supply along in here.
Yep.
And of course, starting out over here.
Good deal.
The transformer will run. It could run 4 of these amplifiers.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
way overkill in this model.
I noticed it was nice and hefty. 2 chokes.
This is the choke. This is a separate filament transformer
Ah.
for the rectifier.
I got you.
I mean, this is purity.
Yeah. Wow. Nice.
So that's what that's all about.
And that's the
Fire bottle.
fire bottle. Gotcha. And which tubes? That was running the KT88s over here.
The KT now you can also go with 6V6s. Anything in between, you put a 5Y3 rectifier
Right.
and then 6V6s
Yep.
in the output.
So tell us a little bit about your shop here.
It's my hovel.
Yeah.
This is I mean, you're getting me during an operating week.
Yeah.
This is the test setup,
Yep.
and in fact, they even have a pretty nice spectrum analyzer.
Yep.
See that?
5980. Yep.
And assembly on
Yep.
this side and on the other. The other side is where the headphone amps are manufactured.
Oh, the Dragon.
For Moon Audio.
Yeah.
And there's the inside of
Beautiful.
under build of
Nice,
one of
nice.
the Dragon.
Yeah.
Here's the stepped
So in there, I
attenuator,
saw that.
dual headphone output,
Yeah.
dual chokes. Because I mean, you're running headphones, you want it really
Really
quiet.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
So there's on this side we build the Moon Audio Jabadoos.
Yeah.
That's the Dragon version of the headphone amp. Wherever you look, you'll see tubes scattered around.
Everywhere.
And this is where I started bending the chassis up here. I had from Harbor Freight, the best brake they had. I had that bolted to the, and I was bending aluminum and machining out with the drill presses.
Yeah.
And then I progressed to the good old green leaf punches.
Green leaf punches. I use them.
I used to go through those like crazy.
I wish they made one for an IAC power connector.
They do.
Do they?
Absolutely. You need to buy one.
Yeah, I do.
There's two versions.
Oh.
One is $280, the other one's $410.
Oh.
The one for $410 gives you the mounting holes.
Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah, they do make one.
You have to send me a link to that.
Yeah, it's amazing. So, record collection here.
Yeah.
Just a few from my home and various chassis.
See the chassis laying around up here.
These are some of the homemade jobs.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Nice stuff.
There's a prototype down there of a 807 amp.
Oh wow.
That's a prototype, but I built a number of 807s. And then in here, chassis. Here's now how the chassis come out.
Right. Very
That's
nice.
how it starts.
Super slick. All
This
aluminum?
is all aluminum.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't do any steel.
Yeah.
All non-ferrous aluminum.
Gotcha.
I think for audio, it's imperative, and RF.
Yeah.
Steel is, I guess, good for old Chevrolet trucks.
Yeah.
So we have some transformers.
Transformers.
They're getting ready.
Yep.
Oh my
Heat
gosh!
kit.
Brick kit. This is another one of the audio buddies that comes by. He brings stuff, and he says, "Can we make this work?"
Ah.
I spent an hour and a half on this thing last week. And we got it playing nice.
Yeah, I've got
the dual mono.
I've got plenty of. I've got one of these in the plates missing here.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, impossible to find.
Oh my gosh. So, and then shipping supplies, and
Yeah,
I mean, it's just a hodgepodge.
yeah.
And sometimes I have ideas. Maybe I should just get a 2,000-3,000 foot facility, hire maybe 6-7 people, and have at it again.
Yeah. I thought, yeah, what happened to retirement?
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, what time did I get here today? This is early. I got here at 11 to meet you. I mean, my goodness gracious. I like to get in at 2.
Yeah.
2 to 7.
Gotcha.
Or 2 to 6. Dawn and I have late dinners.
Yeah.
And so,
Cool.
and then some days I don't come in at all. I'm working on some ham radio projects.
There you go.
Out in the backyard, putting an antenna up.
There you go. Show me a couple of things up front here, and
Blocks. With the these is strapped in the triode.
yep.
With the KT150, and just kind of playing with that. They are in the power range of about 8.5 watts. This guy had just completed yesterday.
Wow.
Just completed this yesterday. It is KT88s, single-ended, separate plate transformer, separate filament transformers, with the large output transformers, and
Yeah.
peak power 17 watts a channel. I rate it really at 15 watts, and that's a strong amplifier. And I have some of these out. It's kind of a secret, but there's a number of fellas that have these, and but I've not the way I did this latest version.
Right,
So,
right.
Anyway, this is a special edition. In fact, let's see, did I sign off on that? Special edition.
Special edition. Yep.
So that's the fun of it. I mean, and you know, you throw these together. That's why when the fellows say, "Would he have a manual?" I mean, how would I do a manual and all these different ones that come out?
In your head.
Or a fellow say, "Do you have a schematic?"
Right.
And I said, "Well, I have one in my head. I've never written out the schematic."
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
anyways, that's another one of my audio cronies. He brought over that. That's a 45
Yeah.
prototype. He brought it over. It had different output transformers, so we ripped those off and
Yeah.
redid. He bought that from somebody over Audio Karma,
Hmm.
and redid that. And that turned into this. That
Oh wow.
yeah, so from here, and this is the 45.
Nice.
2 watts per channel. You heard that
Yeah.
a month ago.
Tell me about this prototype over here.
Oh, that's a phono stage, raw prototype, featuring a pair of the 6S L7s
Yep.
in the RIAA with a regulated power supply with the 80 rectifier, vacuum tube rectification.
Nice. Super nice.
And
High demand.
So that's that everybody wants one of these, and I haven't gotten around to really going forward, but I
Yep.
will. And then here's my latest preamp, the LP3A,
Yep.
and featuring a pair of 6SN7s directly coupled to a 6BX7. Gosh, this thing will drive. It'll drive interconnects the length of a football field. It's capable of putting out 30 volts.
Wow.
I mean, it's but a nice line stage preamp featuring its fully regulated supply and featuring a model 80 rectifier
Nice.
and another that'll last you forever. Now this guy I ship with new old stock tubes.
I got you.
I have been accumulating.
Yeah.
I keep pulling. It was out to here, but I've been. I do look for new old stock 6SNs
Yeah.
and the 6BX7.
Sevens. Yep.
Yeah. So that's the latest LP3 preamp. Oh, you shouldn't show what I have.
Oh, yeah. I've got an ARC SP3 that I run myself, and I may have a case
Yes.
of those
Uh-huh.
new old stock.
Okay, I need them.
I will look at the house.
Thank you so much for
It's been a great
giving
fun.
us a tour here behind the scenes at the Inspire Amplifier Factory, otherwise known as the
There's a
Toy Factory.
Thanks for coming by.
Oh, yeah.
Really appreciate it.
No,
I appreciate your support.
Yeah.
And
It's
I
a lot
look
of fun.
forward. I got a ton of fellas that are looking, folks I should say, that are looking forward to seeing the videos.
Great, great.
Oh wait, I better get this proper here.
Ah.
I should have started out that way. All
Thank
right.
you again.
Thanks.
All right, I thought I'd wrap up this video with Dennis had with by pulling this old 300B boat anchor off and putting on the nice Inspire amp that Dennis upgraded for me and let you hear it. Okay, I got the amp back from Dennis. Yeah, 2 months ago or so I was up there visiting him, and he mentioned to me, hey, I've realized some upgrades that could take place. This was an original 6V6 6 Victory 6 amplifier that he was building maybe a year or two ago that I picked up. And so I dropped it off with him last time I was there, and when I picked it up this time, he said he had completed the upgrades, separated the bias. Used to have a shared bias between the 2 output tubes, and now he separated that into 2 separate circuits, and I think he said he also did a few things with the power supply, but thought we would drop a needle on it and see how it sounds. One of my favorite jazz artist, Oliver Nielsen, he has a cut here called Stolen Moments. It's absolutely phenomenal. One of my favorite Thing sounds amazing. Honestly, it's the first time I've listened to it when I just plugged it up. Bass, really, really tight on this thing, and the horns are amazing. I'm running a set of Clips Cornwall 2s with the Bob Kreitz tweeters and boards in them, and just thing sounds amazing. So, well done, Dennis. Thanks for the interview. Thanks for taking the time, and we really appreciate it. Having lots of fun here at Blue Glow Electronics, and glad to see all this audio fun taking place here in the big state of North Carolina. Alright, before we wrap this video up, I thought I'd just show you real quick that these amps Dennis is building, not designed just for classical or jazz music. They hold their own as a great little amplifier for some rock music. Thanks everyone for watching. Had a great time here with Dennis had at his toy shop, as he calls it, the Toy Factory. And I hope you've enjoyed this. Maybe we'll do a sequel or follow-up one day down the road. Thanks again, everybody.